if you think fishing shuts down when the temperatures drop, you're missing some of the best fishing of your life. So, because when the temperatures drop really far down and the water temperature comes way down, like this year, our winter has been really bad. We was down to like 20 something degrees down here in central Florida where I live. That is super cold. The wind chill factor is like 11 or 12, you know, that's super cold. That's driving the water temperatures way down. Fish become lethargic, almost, they don't active at all. But there is a place where I go to during the winter, and the colder the better, because it drives the fish up into this place, and it's just amazing fishing sometimes. It's just unreal. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the rig. If you'll just stick along for this video, I'll show you towards the end of this video the rig that I use at the power plants that are on saltwater bays or near the salt water. It works tremendously good, man, and I just hope you just stick around for that, because we know that winter fishing in Florida can be tough, and it makes fish very lethargic, and they won't even eat sometimes. But when you get them in the right place where the water's warmer, like power plant outflows are some of the best wintertime fishing there is. That warm water coming out of these power plants, they discharge in hot water, and it comes out and it mixes with the cold water and it starts warming that water up. Them fish sense that, and if they sense that, they'll move into these areas where the water is a lot warmer than it is out in the bay. Well, see, here this year, our Gulf temperature and bay temperature got down to 52 degrees. That's as low as I ever seen it in my whole life. I'm 60 years old, lived my whole life in Florida, and that is the coldest I ever seen this water temperature here. So, if you go to the power plant, you got one in Tampa Bay, you got one in Tarpon Springs, there's one down in Fort Myers, but it's kind of up the river a little bit, but still, those snook will migrate up the river, and they'll get in that power plant discharge. So will the manatees. The manatees are in there so thick sometimes you can't even fish. They're so thick. But sometimes they don't. But the bait fish move into this warm water. So the predator fish are going to follow them. They're just going to follow them. They're going to eat, so they follow them in here. And the best baits I've seen in wintertime on the saltwater discharges are shrimp. Shrimp is a staple for predators during the wintertime. They love shrimp. So shrimp is probably the best way to go. And when I'll show you the rig I use when I go there. First time I ever went there, went to this power plant over in Tarpon Spring called Anclote Power Plant. It's still there, and it's still producing fish, I'll guarantee you. First time I went there, my very first cast, I caught a 6-pound speckled trout, about a 28-incher. He's pretty good size. And it convinced me that that was the way to go, because we caught more trout, and the little Earl trout, the bluefish would eat half of them before we got back. It looked like piranhas. I never seen nothing in my life like that. You'd hook a small trout like that, and he'd be eaten in half. By the bluefish would just eat him in half. It was a wild experience. So, but it just goes to show you how the warm water outflows in a power plant will concentrate the fish in a small area. And the way that worked on that power plant especially was they had a barrel rope across there, blue barrels with a rope strung through them, and they floated, to keep people going from any further up into the power plant than that in a boat. So we just pull up beside it and tie off to the barrel rope and fish. You just cast it as far up as you could up current, and when it hit, you just reel the slack out of it, and reel the slack out when it's floating back, and bam, when he hits it, you got him. See? So that was the technique on that particular power plant. Most of the power plants, that'll be the technique, because most of the power plants have some kind of barrier going across there to protect them from boats going up in there. They don't know. But in today's world with terrorism like it is, you never know. So they put it up there, and they don't want people going no further than that. If it's barriered off where you can't fish over the rope, you just come up and anchor up and fish right around where the barrier is and out. But most of them just have a barrel rope there where you can watch it, where you can just tie off to. Yeah. Well, the warm water is going to get the bait to come in there, and the fish are going to feed on them. And they're going to feed on them longer than normal because the water's warm. And there's a lot of bait fish in there. So, I mean, in fresh water, there'll be a lot of bass, a lot of panfish like crappie, bluegill, shellcracker, and but the bass and crappie, shellcracker, and bluegill will be in there. And I use small minnows, some of my bass lures for if I'm trying to catch a bass, and grass shrimp, what we call grass shrimp. They're little tiny small shrimp like this. They live in fresh water, and they look like regular shrimp that you get up from salt water, except they're only inch and a half at the biggest. But they're excellent bait. Just about everything feeds on them, all the way from bass, catfish, speckled perch, or crappie as you call them up north, and bluegill, shellcracker, just about everything will eat them. So that's one thing I wanted to bring to your attention is these power plant outflows. They're almost, you got to try it, man. I mean, it can be some of your best fishing of your life. Yeah. Now these power plant outflows can stack these fish up like snook, and redfish, trout, bluefish, pompano. Pompano is one of the primary fish that go up in there, and when we use shrimp, you catch a lot of pompano off of them, and it's just a good bait, Yeah, and that's what we do. When you get there, you don't just fish randomly. If you got a rope there, you can tie off to the rope, try to look and see how the current's boiling, and you can tell where there's like a little eddies or something like that, and there might be a rock down there or something causing that. So you want to try to look at that and see if you can figure it out. If you can, you're going to catch a lot of fish. But now I want to go and talk about some of the lures I use and maybe the rigs we use. So paddle tails. These are virtually used just about everywhere. These paddle tails. It's got the paddle tail on it, a good jig head, and this is a good saltwater bait and a good freshwater bait. The bass will hit these just as well as the snook and redfish and trout do. But if you don't have live bait, or you don't want to buy no live bait, you just want to fish with artificials, this would be a good start, because you can fish with these either slow, because you could slow these down, and then that's what you really need to do is kind of slow it down with these, and get kind of slow with it because of the colder water. This is a good combination. Now another lure that you can use there is the bucktail jig. This is one of saltwater's oldest style of jigs that you can get. And this type is a center balance jig. The eye is right up here in the center of the head. Got a nice saltwater hook on there. You can add a plastic to it like this. Make it like that. You can do a lot of different things with these bucktail jigs. They come in different sizes. So in them power plants, I recommend 1/4, 3/8, maybe a half at the most. Depends on how fast the water's coming out of there. You can use twitch baits now. Twitch baits are like flukes. Flukes are one of the twitch baits I'd use. Now this one doesn't have a weight on them, but you can buy the hooks that have little weights right here that's molded in lead, and it'll make it sink a little better. And you could use this, but you can use it without a weight on it and just twitch it across, you know, subsurface, and you could probably catch some fish that way too. But basically you'd probably want to get it down a little bit. The fish gonna probably be hanging down looking up. So that's a good bait right there for that too. And in the freshwater, if you got a power plant on freshwater where it might have bass up in it, you know, you'd want to use a jig head like this with a curly tail on it, you know, and it'll swim like a little snake or something, or eel. But this is a 3/8 model with a 3/0 bronze hook. Just cast it up. You just cast these up current and slowly reel it back. Just make it as slow as you can keep it without getting it on the bottom. And that's a pretty good way to get them there. Now, if there's any bass in there, if you think there's some bass in there, or you feel like there's some bass in there, this here rig is a Texas rigged soft plastic 4-inch beaver tail type. If you don't like these appendages here, you could take them, you can just pull them off. And sometimes they hit them better with them things off of there than they do on there, but I've caught them both ways. So this here is a weedless design. I'll come through to the first segment right there, pull the hook through, twist it around where it's facing the plastic, and it marks it right here for you. You see where the hook goes into the plastic, and you just push it all the way through where it comes out the back, and then you push this forward and skin hook it where it'll be weedless. See how that weedless that is? You can't hook it, and that's a good combination for bass in these power plant outflows because they work. Okay, some of the things you might want to do. Some of the things you might want to do when you're fishing in these power plants or these winter areas. Sometimes the deep holes will also have fish, but they'll be deep and they'll be slow reacting. So you got to fish down slow. You got to fish it slow. And towards the midday, when it starts warming up, they may become more active. But usually, when it's really cold in the morning, unless it's crappies, you know, you might not get as many bites from bass early in the morning when it's real cold. But as the day starts warming up, the sun, especially if it's not a cloudy day and it's a good clear day and the sun's warming the water up, they might bite more towards the midday than they would early or late. The weather plays a big host on it. What the fish do, you know. You just got to slow your speeds down when you're fishing in the wintertime, real slow, so these fish aren't going to chase after much because their metabolism's kind of running slow, so they're not going to move after something real far. They're not going to chase. Okay, but when you go to these power plants, you need to be careful of what you're doing. You need to have some kind of safety rules about it. The best thing to do is just tie off to the rope, the barrel rope, if they'll allow you. They may come down and tell you to get off of it, you know. But you can anchor up. There ain't nothing they can do about anchoring up. So just be careful. That's all. Yeah. So if you want winter fishing that feels like you're fishing in spring, that's what I would do. I would go to a power plant outflow if you have one around your home. But if you live like in northern portions of the south, would probably, you know, where your lakes don't freeze over, you can fish deep spots where you can get the boat to, you know, deep holes and stuff, where in impoundments or phosphate pits. Like we have phosphate mining down here in Florida. They create a lot of areas, and they've made parks out of them, so they're really nice areas. Caught some really monster bass out of them, and It's just how it is in the wintertime. These pits over here are 40, 50 foot deep in some places, which is highly unusual for Florida. Florida is unique in the fact that most of our lakes are dishpan shaped lakes, not more than 15, 16 foot deep at the max. Lake Okeechobee is only 15 or 16 foot deep at high water mark. So, you know, and that's a humongous lake. It's 60 miles across. Well, if you like this video, subscribe and like it, and leave a comment so we can find out what kind of videos you'd like to see next time. Well, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.